in Lakota, we have this natural law called generosity. So some people have all kinds of names for that, but I'll just use the English so you know what it is. Um, this states that what you send out returns to you four times as strong. Now, some people think, um, okay, so I'm going to do something good, so um, four good things will happen to me. That's not what it means. That's not what it means. Okay? If that were true, then people would be doing all kinds of good things, even though they don't mean it. Yeah, just because they want four good things to happen to them, and it does not work that way. No, ma'am. No, sir. Does not work that way. No, what it means is that the energy, yeah, the energy returns, but not blessings or cursings. Okay? It's an energy that returns four times as strong, and it does something to your soul development. Wherever you're at in your life, this energy, it does something to your soul development. So you hinder your soul development or you um, bless it. Yeah. So it's not about getting something in return, like oh, I'm going to um, build a house for somebody, so that way maybe I get a Rolls Royce in return and a swimming pool, and see, that's material thinking, materialism. This is not the natural law of generosity. Okay, so it's not about doing something so that you can get something in return. No, no, it's not about that at all. Okay, so um, natural law of generosity, one more time, is the energy you send out returns to you four times as strong. And like I said, it can either hinder your soul development, and if it does that, you go into emotional denial because these two are really connected. Okay, or it can you can bless you can bless your soul development in this way, and your emotional development continues as well. They're both tied into each other. Yeah. But emotional development is a key here because you cannot develop spiritually until you are emotionally developed, emotionally healthy. See, if you're not emotionally healthy, you know, you can go to your culture ceremonies as much as you want to. It's not going to do a damn thing. Yeah, because uh, you might increase in spiritual knowledge, but that does not affect your soul development. What affects your soul development is your emotional well being. That's what's important. Then everything else falls in. Yeah. So, in natural law of generosity, when I say whatever you send out, this is communication. Communication is four things. Actually, it's more than four things. Okay. This is. Let me give you some examples of communication. Communication is a two-way street. So it's not only um, the things you say and do, it's also how you say and do these things. For example, somebody might be saying, "Oh yeah, I help everybody out," but his facial expression is like, you know, says the opposite. Yeah, his words are saying, "Yeah, I love everybody, I help everybody out," but his face is saying, "As long as they're white people." You see what I mean? He's saying one thing, but you can tell he means another by the tone of his voice. See, this is dishonesty. That's that's an unhealthy communication. See, he just sent it out. So even though it's the words themselves, the statements themselves, if you just look at, yes, I love everybody, so I help everybody, those are really nice words, but he said it in such a way that he doesn't mean it. So it's a lie. It's a deception, which makes it unhealthy. So even though the statements are nice and pretty, it's still unhealthy energy because he does not mean it. So that's why I said it's not only what you say and do, it's how you say and do these whatever it is that you said or did. Okay? The other aspects of communication are how do you uh, process your difficulties and enjoy your blessings. That's also communication. Yeah? And what is your thought process like? That's also communication. Okay, now that's half of the definition of communication. The other half of the definition is how do you receive communication? How good do you really listen when somebody's talking to you? Are you forming your response while they're talking to you? If you are, you're not communicating in a good way because you're not really listening. You're just hearing, but you're not really listening. Listening is fine tuning. Yeah, it's really paying attention to what the other person is saying to you. So you don't form a response. Just listen to everything they have to say. When they get done, if you have, if you need to be, if something needs to be clarified for you, that's when you ask your question. So you don't interrupt them because they're on a thought process. And if you interrupt them, they might lose it. This is why I really don't like seeing conversations or interviews where the reporter is constantly interrupting the person because the reporter wants a certain answer. This is manipulation. When you constantly interrupt somebody, you're communicating in an unhealthy way, and that's going to come back to you stronger, 4 times as strong. Yeah, because you're not really listening. You're trying to get a certain answer out of somebody by interrupting them and changing the question. So you're manipulating them. This is not healthy communication. See, listening is part of the other half of the definition. The other things are when you see something, how do you interpret it? When I used to teach at school in South Dakota, I used to put a TV um, in the center of the room, and then I'd have my students sit around the TV at the TV. I'd have my students sit around the TV in a circle. Then I would ask them to, just look at what you see. You stay in your chair. Just look at what you see. Now describe it to me. And for how many ever students are there, that's how many different descriptions you're going to get. I said, just describe what you see in front of you. So one guy might say, well, there's a screen in the front and there's some knobs. And another lady, she might say, no, there isn't. There's nothing back here but a cord and a bunch of dust and and she might say, you're wrong. There's nothing back here. There's no screen back here. See what I mean? They're both correct, but both have incomplete descriptions. But one might say, well, you're wrong. The other one will say, no, you're wrong. They think they have complete description, and they think the other one is false. This is an example of of being judgmental without having the full knowledge. So, for example, this is a big problem today. Yeah, the example being Muslims in the world. People see Muslims. What's the first thing they think? Terrorist. Then followed by harassment, and maybe they don't even know the religion, but they're doing that. You got to do your research. If you're gonna have an opinion on something, you have to do your research. This is healthy communication. When you do your research and then develop your opinion, that is healthy communication. Unfortunately, most people don't do that. Instead, they go by gossip. They go by what one person said. Did you hear about those people who follow the holy mattress religion? Oh my God! I saw one lady, and she was married to a little boy. Oh my God! Those people are bad. That's an example. How if you say that, how did you get your opinion? Did you research the Church of the Holy Mattress? Do you know the history of the Church of the Holy Mattress? Do you know their belief system? And you're just talking. How many members of the Church of the Holy Mattress did you talk to? How many priests of the Church of the Holy Mattress did you talk to? None. Instead, you're just going by what you saw. You didn't even investigate. Yeah, you didn't even take the time to check it out. Instead, you judged it just because of one incident. That's like looking into a book and just reading one sentence. And let's say you have this book and you find one sentence in this book, and this book says, and then the mother put her daughter to sleep for the night, kissed her on the forehead, and said, "Sweet dreams, uh, uh, my sweet daughter, and I'll see you in the morning." And the daughter says, "Mommy, I love you," and the mom says, "I love you too, sweetie." Let's say that's what you read. Can you tell what this book is about just by that sentence or that paragraph? So let's say you read that little paragraph and you say, "Oh, this book is about uh, happy family." So you tell people, "No, this book is about a happy family because I read this one little paragraph and it's really nice. It's a good book." Is that correct? No. The paragraph that I just described to you. You know what book this comes from? This comes from The Exorcist. I read that book about 15 times. Yeah, I'm not kidding. That was one of my favorite books. I only read it in the daytime because the book is even scarier than the movie. Seriously, yeah, it scares the shit out of you. I was a teenager. I really liked that. Yeah. I only read it in school where there's lots of people around me to protect me. Anyway, when you judge an entire group of people based on limited information that's based also on lies and false accusations, that's unhealthy communication. I used to have a friend who, um, when she was really a good friend. Uh, She was very smart, very pretty young woman, and this was like, geez, almost 20 years ago, 18 years ago, I think. No, 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 no. Yeah, that's right. 18. Jeez, wait now. Yeah, about 18 years ago. Almost 20 years. Wow. This this lady was really a nice lady, and we worked together musically, and we did some recordings, and it's really nice stuff. And I'm a music. In case some of you don't know, I'm a musician, and I write songs, and sometimes I sing, and sometimes I have other people sing, because I don't consider myself a singer. Okay. Anyway, this lady was really smart, and she really she's very educated and just a wonderful woman. And there was a part of me that wanted to be in a relationship with her because she was so smart and pretty and sweet and strong. Yeah, she was really cool, and she really had a good sense of humor. Some of the best jokes that I know, I learned from her. Yeah, she's she's she was brilliant, and I was starting to fall in love with her. Then we were talking about things, and this lady, she does her research. Yeah, when she's that's what I liked about her. She takes the time to check things out. before she forms an opinion. Until one evening we were talking, sitting on the sofa, having a nice evening, and we were watching something on TV, and suddenly we start talking about something, and then the topic led to Mormons. So I said, "What do you think about Mormons?" And her face changed, her voice changed. And said, "Mormons are bad people." I said, "Oh, really?" And I said, "Explain." I said, their belief system is really bad." She said. I said, "Okay. Like what?" And she said, "Well, for example, before a man uh, wants to marry a woman, um, he has to get the approval of the bishop. He has to test her to make sure she's a virgin." And I was like, "Oh." And they have many wives. And I said, "Oh." And so I every the more things she said, I realized she didn't know jack shit about Mormonism, because everything that was coming out of her mouth was a lie. So I asked her, "Where did you get your information?" And she said, "Well, I talked to somebody who knows about this." I said, "How many people did you talk to?" "Just this one person," she said. And I said, "Geez, that that really is disappointing, because in everything else that you talk about, you really did your background work. Yeah, you got many sources before developing your opinion. But when it comes to Mormonism, you didn't do that. You didn't do that process. Instead, you're just saying, well, my friend said, or I heard." That's gossip talking. That's not research. That's not fact. Saying I heard a UFO landed at the White House, that's bullshit. Where did you hear that from? What are your sources? You only have one source, and that one source doesn't even have correct information. Where did your source get their information? And she couldn't answer that. So I started to educate her. See, I went to a university in Utah. This Utah's Mormon country. I did my research years ago. I know a lot this religion, and I told her where I got my research. I told her everything, and she got very upset at me because I threw down her argument. Everything that she said is true of a different religion. Yeah. See, it's true that in the beginning, Mormons did practice polygamy. This is true. Yeah. But when they settled their own, they wanted their own Israel out away from America. That's why they left what was America. It was just the east, yeah, the east side of the Mississippi River. That was at that time in the 1800s. That was the only part that was America. So they left that part and went and settled into the area that today is called Utah. At that time, it was just a territory and it was not a state. There were no states connected to it. So they felt like they were an island. They wanted to be their own country. Yeah. And then America started coming, developing and coming more towards the West. Yeah. And so now they're saying to the Mormons, comply, or we take this take this territory. We're going to make it into a state, but you have to comply. And so, I think it was 1880 something, or no, 1840 something. One of those, somewhere in the 1800s. The Mormons were getting ready to go to war against America, and they realized they were going to lose. They realized everybody would probably end up dead. So one of the things they had to do was they had to stop practicing polygamy. So the prophet of the church at that time, I don't know if it was Brigham Young or the person after him. I think it was somebody named Woodrow something, who was I don't know if he was the third or fourth prophet, but he issued a statement saying we're that no longer going to practice polygamy, because they realized they needed the protection of America. So they had to start obeying the laws of the country. So then the Mormon church created this law that said wherever you live, if you're a Mormon, wherever you live in this world, number one, you follow the laws of the land. Totally the opposite of Islam. Now, Islam's the other way around. Yeah, but that's how it is in the Mormon belief. So then they issued the statement that now polygamy is outlawed in the Mormon church. Well, there were some men who didn't want to comply. So the Mormons excommunicated them from the church and forced them out of Utah. So the first place they settled was on the border of Utah and Arizona. Yeah, they set up a community there. I forgot the name already. It's in South Utah, North Arizona. They set up a community there. And they're either the reorganized church or the, what's the other one? Fundamentalist church. But they're not Mormons. Okay? These are not Mormons. This is a cult. But they're not Mormons. So I told my friend, I said, if you had done your research, you would have known this. Those people, the reorganized church, those are the people who do what you say, I said. But it's not the Mormons. It's two different things. And she really got mad at me because I knew the truth. And most people in this world are this way. I find that, if I ask somebody, well, what do you think about the Mormons? Shit. Most of the time, it's all shit. What people say is nothing but shit. It's all based on lies. Well, I saw this one guy, and it's always just one thing they saw. And they base everything on that one incident. That's judgmental. That is unhealthy. That's unhealthy emotional development. Yeah? So that's kind of a litmus test for me. Yeah, when I'm getting to know people, and I ask this question, and the people who've passed that test are my closest friends. Yeah, I asked one of the smartest answers I ever got from somebody when I asked this question to a young lady a couple of years ago. I asked her, "Well, so what do you think about the Mormons?" And she comes from a really big religion herself, okay? But she's not conservative, all right? And I asked her this question, and she said, "Well, I don't know anything about them." She said, "I can't say anything because I don't even know who they are," she said. And I was like, ah, relief, honesty. That was a smart answer. I like that. That's honesty. She couldn't say because she didn't know. See, she did not judge them because she doesn't know anything about them. But when you judge something without knowing the facts, that's unhealthy communication. So, do you see what I mean when I say how you see something, how you interpret something? This is communication, this is incoming communication. How you interpret it. When you see something, how do you interpret it? When you hear something, excuse me, how do you interpret it? For example, when where I used to live in a different part of the city, and in the summertime, at about 4 o'clock in the morning, the birds start, yeah, in the trees, because Berlin has a lot of trees, and not just in the residential areas, but in the business areas too, yeah. So when I was, sometimes I'm up all night, and summer is hot sometimes. So I don't know, about 4 o'clock in the morning, these birds start singing, and it's nice. In the beginning, it's really nice, but then there was always this one bird. Huh? Huh? It sounds like that, yeah. You hear all these pretty birds, tweet, 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 and all of a sudden, huh? Huh? And I was like, gee, just ruined the song for me. And then I can say to myself, oh, that must be an ugly looking bird because it sounded ugly. Am I being correct? No, I'm being judgmental because I don't even see the bird. But just because it has this weird noise, I'm judging it as, oh, it must be an ugly bird. I'm going to shoot it because it's an ugly bird. That's unhealthy communication. I'm judging something and I don't even see it. How you interpret things is communication too. So that's why I said earlier communication is a two-way street. Yeah? It's outgoing in what you say and do and how you say and do things, how you process your difficulties, you learn from them, how you learn from them, how you enjoy your blessings. That's all communication. I mean, that's all outgoing communication. And then you have incoming communication. How do you receive it? How do you interpret it? What do you take the time to check things out? If you're healthy, you will. But if you're like my ex friend, because this was the first experience that this lady that I was telling you about back in 18 years ago. This was the first experience that really put a sour taste in my mouth. And then the next experience was another bad experience like this, and I realized I can't even be friends with her. She's a racist. The reason why I was her friend was because I was native. If I was a white guy, she wouldn't even have talked to me. And that really disappointed me. I didn't want to be with her anymore. When I'm friends with somebody, I want them to be friends with me because of the kind of person that I am, not because I'm Indian, because not all Indians are good. Yeah. She made a statement. She's a white girl, and she said, "Yeah, I only date Indian guys." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, Indian guys are close to the earth. They are close to nature." And I said, "That's bullshit." I said, "I can. You come to the reservation, and probably 99% of the time, you're gonna meet people who don't give a shit. You look around you on the res. You see trash everywhere. Yeah, you see cars rusting away, damaging the ground. You see reservation mechanics changing oil. Shit, they just dump the oil on the ground. They don't give a shit. They're not connected to nature like you think. And most natives can't even speak their own language. She went out with a lot of powwow guys. Yeah. And I said, those guys are probably the most full of shit people in our culture. They're really superficial. These fancy dancers, they're really superficial people. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. They don't have a correct, because she was with the Lakota guy one time. He was a fancy dancer, and he was telling her things that are not even part of our belief system. He was just making shit up to impress her because she's a white girl, and she believed it. And when we had this last discussion, um, and I asked her, "Do you only go out with white guys?" And I mean, do you only go out with Indian guys? And she said, "Yeah, because Indian guys are connected to Mother Earth and so blah 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 blah." Just like the Mormon discussion, all that came out of her mouth was bullshit. I said, "How many Indian guys have you been with?" And she said, "A lot." Oh, okay. So that should say it. That should answer it for you. Yeah. I said, how come you end up breaking up with them? Well, they found out one guy had another girlfriend, another one just took from me, and I think, and you're saying all Indians are good? Every one of your native ex-boyfriends fucked you over. How can you say all Indians are good when all your Indian ex-boyfriends, they did wrong by you? And she got mad. Yeah, and uh, and she said, "Well, I thought maybe we could, you know, enter a relationship." And I said, I was hoping for that too, but now I know it's not going to happen. I said, because the only reason why you're talking to me is because I'm an Indian, and I don't like that. And we started going back and forth, and I said the discussion is not getting anywhere. I said let's take some time away from each other and clear our heads. I said because right now I don't want to be your friend. Right now I feel like I don't want anything to do with you because you're a racist. Yeah, you associate with people based on their race. That's racism. Me, I'm not that way. I take the time to know people to see if I like them or not. And those relationships have always been the best because they have foundation. But just saying, I only go out with white girls that have blonde hair and blue eyes, that's, that's not always going to work. And I'm never really taking the time to know them. So they're all going to fail. That's communication. Yeah, refusing to take the time to know something, to check something out. This is unhealthy communication. So after about 2, 3 weeks, she didn't change her view. So I said, I can't be your friend then because my friends are not racist. And then she said, well, you can see it that way. Yeah, you can continue, seeing life the way you do too, but I can't be your friend. So good luck with your life. And I moved on. You see what I mean? When you don't take the time to check things out and you just go by gossip, that's unhealthy communication. And that's going to affect other areas in your life. Now, if you are this way, like my former friend, if you are like her and you decide to have a child, you're already hurting your child because you're judgmental. You're teaching your child to become a racist. You're teaching your child to become paternalistic. That's when you say, "Well, I know what's right for everybody." Yeah? You're teaching your child that to be ethnocentric, and that's where you say things like, "Well, see, what's wrong with your culture is this and this and this. If you did this and this and this, like the way my culture does it, then your culture would be better." See, that's ethnocentrism, and that leads to racism, and it's paternalistic too. And then the fourth aspect, my way is the only way. Dogma. That's what the Catholic Church is based on. And all these four concepts, racism, paternalism, ethnocentrism, and dogma, these four concepts were created by man. This does not come from nature. This is a man made system designed to control everything, to manipulate everything for its own selfish desires. That is oppression. There's no love in that system. If I want to know something, I want to know the truth. This is healthy communication. So just because I know it, It does not mean I believe it, and it does not mean I agree with it, but at least I know the facts. That's healthy communication. And if I am this way and I have children, the chances are good that my children will pick up on that too, and that their communication is also healthy. So I'm. Do you see what I mean? It's really important to be emotionally healthy before you have children, so that you can teach your children not to judge anybody, but that they learn how to take the time to check things out. Because they're going to learn everything from you, whether you like it or not. Everything they're going to pick up that's coming from you, they're going to soak that up. So if you judge people without even taking the time to know them, you're creating racists. Yeah, and you're influencing that child to grow up into an unhealthy individual. That's why people say racism is learned. You go to, like here in big city of Berlin, you go to a park and you always see areas that were playgrounds for children. Berlin is a very multicultural city. So when you look at these children play, you're going to see kids from all cultures, all skin colors playing with each other. They don't know racism. They don't know religion. Excuse me. But they know how to play. They might get in disagreements because they're children. Yeah, they're still developing. But overall, they're playing with each other. That's natural. It's our parents that teach us to separate from others. Or not. Some of us had healthy parents who taught us take the time to know them first. Then you'll know if they're good or not. I was fortunate to have a mother like that. She was a preschool teacher. And South Dakota is a very racist state. And the little town that we grew up was racist too. Both ways. Yeah, Indians against whites. And so as a preschool teacher, she didn't like this racism. So what she did was she taught the children to learn to help each other, play with each other. To This was her contribution against the battle of racism in that town. And it worked. I mean, some children still grew up to be racist because their parents were racist. Yeah, but some children went against their family tradition of racism and turned out to be really nice people, thanks to my mom. So I was fortunate. I was fortunate to have a mother who was not judgmental. Yeah. When she knew I was going to be a musician, there were lots of times where she would say, "David, look at this. Listen to this. Listen to this guy. He sings and plays guitar." And she'd put this record on and say, "Oh, that's cool. I want to do that when I grow up." That was Chuck Berry. She never said he was black. She just said, "Listen to this singer. He sings and plays guitar." She let me play her record collection. She never said, "Oh, look at this. This is a white guy. This one is a black one." She never said that. She said, "Listen to this song. Listen to this one. What do you think of this one?" She never mentioned their race. And I'm so thankful for that. Take the time to check things out. That's a healthy communication. Because when you are this way, others around you feel good. But if you believe in gossip, you are creating an unhealthy environment. That means you are sending out unhealthy energy. And that means it's going to return to you 4 times as strong and hinder you in anything that you try to do, even if it's a good thing that you're trying to do. You are stopping yourself. You are making yourself close-minded. You are the one who's put a sack over your head and you're trying to look around as if it doesn't exist. Why would you do that? But that's what you're doing when you don't take the time to check things out. Yeah, people are so judgmental. That's one of the biggest problems we have in this world. And that shows you that most people in this world communicate in an unhealthy way, which means that whatever they communicate, remember that's outgoing and it's incoming. It's sending and receiving. That because most people do this in an unhealthy way, they're actually making themselves worse, and this is why the global society is so messed up. We set up all these barriers, defined by religion, race, language. We've always been doing this, even among Indians. Before European contact, Indians were doing this too. We were constantly at war in the American continents. Constantly. These New Agers who are living in fantasy, they think Indians were constantly hugging trees and wolves and frolicking through the forest and so forth. And that's total fantasy. It was a dangerous time. Because if you're walking out in the wilderness by yourself and you run into some enemies, if you're not a good fighter, you're going to end up dead. That's not peace. So that's reality. We were doing it too. So when you hear an Indian guy saying, "Yeah, we were at one with everything and each other," and if you hear an Indian guy saying that, he doesn't know shit about his own culture, because that's not true. We were constantly at war with each other, stealing each other's women sometimes. Seriously, that's the truth. So there's no such thing as a full blood anything because of things like that. Yeah. So how you communicate affects your emotional development, and that's going to affect your children because they're going to learn that from you. Yeah. I knew this one guy when I still lived in South Dakota. I knew this guy that he was he's a funny guy. And he likes to he does this impression of a drunk, but he does it in a really funny way. Yeah. Time his daughter came back from school and she was probably about 10 years old. So he was yeah, his daughter came back from school and here he said, "So how are you?" So she came walking in all funny. "I'm all right." He said, "What's wrong with you?" "Nothing. Ease," she said. She was pretending to be drunk like he does. Yeah. He doesn't drink, yeah, but he just does this to be funny. And he didn't realize it, but his daughter was picking up on that. So she was doing that too, yeah, to make her friends laugh. Your children are going to imitate you, yeah? So it's going to be everything. So how you are is going to influence your children. So if you judge a culture or a religion in a very unhealthy way, that's child abuse because you're teaching your child indirectly, but it's still teaching the child to think in an unhealthy way. Being a parent is very serious business. Yeah? And most people in this world, they they see having a child as a burden or it's like, oh geez, now I have to do this. Oh, I can't do that anymore. Oh, blah 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 blah. That thinking is hurting the child too. Yeah. This whole discussion started from somebody that I know who turned 27 years old recently, and she was feeling really down because she's not not married, she doesn't have any children yet, and all of her friends are married and have children since they were 21, and she doesn't, and she's getting depressed, and I mean I shouldn't say that depressed, but she just feels down about it, and so I was telling her, but look at the way you are. She's very. This is the same person I told you. And I asked her about Mormons, and I said, "What do you think about the Mormon people?" And she said, "I don't know who they are, so I really can't say anything." Yeah, that's a total honest answer. I really like that. And then she said, "Well, I would have to research that," she said, "because I don't know anything about them." See, taking the time to know something. She has a good foundation. When I asked her, "How would you do that?" So well, I'd start with Googling them, and then I probably would want to talk to some just to see what they're like. To see, I mean, their belief system. That's healthy. So I pointed these kind of things out to her and saying that your standards are really good. Yeah, you're gonna be. really worth it for somebody. Don't give up. Don't give up hope. You have a really good foundation. Yeah, you really have a good emotional foundation, especially for somebody that young. So you're really gonna be, you are an amazing person, and you have a good foundation. So that means your inside is really healthy, and like attracts like. That person will come to you. That's natural law. So don't worry. Yeah, you can be concerned, but just don't over worry about it. 27 is just a number. Yeah. So she was a little bit on the linear thinking about that. So we had to talk about that to calm her down. That it's not the linear thing. Of course, there's going to be a certain age when it's probably not a good idea to have children. You know what I mean? When you're up there in the 40s and so forth. But of course, but right at this time, try to focus on the present moment. So I pointed out the things about her that she didn't realize are really good. And that helped her to feel better about the situation. And I said, the way you are, when that time comes and you get pregnant and your child is really lucky to have a mother like you because the way you are, you're not judgmental. You have a good foundation. You have good standards for yourself. Your child is going to pick up on all of that, and you're preparing your child in a really good way that most mothers are not like you. What you're going to have is very special. Because you are very special. Well, that made her feel better. So this all ties in, yeah. When you're gonna have a child, this all ties in. It's all connected to each other. All these concepts connect like this. So it's important. Yeah, it's important to take the time to check things out. It does not mean you have to agree. It does not mean you have to believe it. It doesn't even mean you have to accept it. But at least you know the truth, the whole key. Instead of saying, well, I heard, and then you know what? I also heard. This is this is irresponsibility to yourself. And if you're irresponsible to yourself, naturally, you will be irresponsible to your child. Because that's how it works. So taking the time to check things out is taking personal responsibility for your life. And your child is going to pick up on that. And that's a good thing. Yeah? So, parenting is no joke. Unless you're a comedian. Then it's hilarious. It's hilarious to have some comedian kids running around. Yeah, so your whole life is a sitcom. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, this is based on Lakota Star knowledge concepts. Okay? Everything that I've said here is all based on Lakota Star knowledge concepts. Being a mother and the father is is the most wonderful blessing that we can ever have in our lives. And for those of you who've raised your children, you know what I mean. And even number one thing I want to say is that you know it does not mean you have to absolutely be with another person for the rest of your lives. It doesn't always have to be that. The most important thing is that the child is receiving motherly energy and fatherly energy from some place. Okay? Because there are situations, for example, when the mother dies in childbirth, yeah, or the father dies in a car wreck or something. Those things cannot be helped because they do happen. But that does not mean all hope is lost. It just means you have to provide another source. And that's why the other day I was talking about the Tioshbaya concept, where if something like this did happen, there are other mothers ready for this child and other fathers too. That's why in our culture, like many cultures, believe that it takes a community to raise a child. This is true. And when a community is this way, that community, that society is strong and healthy. Yeah? So coming from a single parent family is not a bad thing. I come from one, but and my father was absent since I was 2 years old, but I still was able to get fatherly energy from my mother's brothers, and later on from other men who were emotionally healthy. I was still able to receive fatherly energy in that manner too. So even though my father wasn't there, it was not a total hinderment. Okay, so those are things you have to take into consideration. Yeah, and I think I turned out okay. Maybe a little bit funny looking, but I'm still okay. Anyway,